Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to this concluding series of the Sharia Intelligence course. I am your host, Muhammad Nuruddin Lemu, and with me to discuss today's episode and the next few are two of our distinguished scholars in their own right, students of knowledge, facilitators of this course, Brother Nasir Bello and Brother Ibrahim Bello. You are both most welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
In this episode, I would like us to go through some of what we would call the closing remarks, so to speak, or closing thoughts on the subject. We have been going through Sharia intelligence. We've gone through the segments to do with Usulul Fiqh, the two parts, the part to do with the Qawaid al-Fiqhiyya and Maqasid Sharia. I'd like to start with asking Malam Ibrahim Bello. After all of this, we will still find individuals, as to some extent even ourselves, but people who feel very strongly about their opinion or the opinion of their group or particular scholar, and who feel that others are wrong and they are right. And they've got that degree of certainty about their position, even though that would be a topic or an issue arrived at through ijtihad, and there would still be differing opinions among scholars. What kind of advice would you recommend for people who are of that persuasion, people who believe they are right and others are wrong? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah for coming this far. And to start with, there's a wise saying in Arabic that says, لو أنصت من لا يعرف لقل الخلاف. If only those who know less, or who don't know, who speak less, or who stop commenting on issues they don't know, there will be less disagreement. The thing with knowledge is that at the beginning you feel you know it all. But if you are sincerely committed to learning, the more you learn, the more humble you become. Because the more you get to see that you are nowhere. So this issue of intellectual humility, with knowledge, you just don't know it all. And like they used to say, Al-Jabalu la yara nafsa. The true knowledgeable people don't feel proud of themselves because they don't used to believe they have arrived up till now. So it's a mistake and wrong assumption and a sort of intellectual arrogance of a thing for one to start assuming he has known it all, other people are wrong. A number of things you do once you have assumed that kind of mindset. You close your mindset from learning new, and you're not open to growth again. And in fact, even people who know and feel they can correct you, you've already assumed a position of you are big. So we should be very, very humble. And particularly with Sharia, there are issues that are arrived at qat'i thubut, qat'i dilala. Through qat'i thubut, qat'i dilala evidence. These ones are not debatable. They are not open to any debate.
Yes,
they are like what you can call thawabit or ma'alumu min ad-din bid-darura. Our Aqidah issues, 5 daily prayers, God is one, you don't associate anybody with him. The articles of faith, prohibition of alcohol, zina, gambling, the virtues of honesty, justice, all of these things, no debates. But once the issue you are arguing over is less than this, or the equation that produced that verdict is subjective, then trade with caution.
Dhanni, you mean?
Dhanni. You call those one Dhanni as-thubut or Dhanni dilala. Once there is some level of speculation, presumptiveness in the historical authenticity of the text or the clarity of the meaning, take it easy. You're entitled to your opinion, but with all respect and humility, scholars, great scholars, authoritatively, are bound to differ from you. And the cost of this kind of assumption, because once you say something is for sure, for certain, and you're ready to fight over it and you believe that is the only opinion, a number of things. Number one, you assume that is certainly the position and the intent of Sharia. You mean that's what God means to say with certainty, which is wrong. Even scholars who will assume, who will conclude on that, because of that speculation or presumptive nature of the text, are not 100% sure. So, that is number one. Number two, you are now like speaking in the name of God. And so, you are like trying to tell people that they must buy your idea on something that you yourself, you are not certain. You are not even too sure. Scholars are very reluctant on rulings and fatwas they arrive at to call it this is the ruling of God. They rather tell me this is my ijtihad. They try to differentiate. And that's why people like Imam Malik particularly, is very reluctant in saying something is haram. You just say la yajuz, you just say it's makruh, because they know they are too extreme of rulings of liability that we have to be careful about. You don't say something is haram when you are not sure. You don't say something is binding when you are not sure. Fard. Between you can play around based on your conviction. But all you know, you are not committing anybody to sin. Okay. So Imam al-Thawri used to say that if you see somebody doing something over which there is difference of opinion, and you are of the belief that it is haram, it is forbidden, do not challenge that person. In other words, there is no need for debate. In fact, even Sheikh Usman bin Fodi of recent memory in Nigeria has similar opinion. That you only debate, you only preach on issues that they are clear. But once you have some level of difference of opinion and somebody chose to take the other one and he has a scholarly basis, please allow him. There are issues that there is no need for debate. It's not time to discuss and start arguing. Save that energy for unity. Sometimes you might be good at arguing and winning and what have you. You might even humiliate your opponent in the name of discussion, muqabala, whatever you call it. But that may not be helpful because that's not the intent of Islam. You may win the argument like they say, but you lose the brotherhood. And the essence is, whether you like it or not, we just cannot all be on the same conviction and opinion. So once you have valid or legitimate difference of opinion among classical scholars, please calm down, take it easy. You might be right, but be humble to accommodate, to respect and tolerate. And have that humility also that there is a possibility that you might also be wrong. And be open to learning and development. Over the years, as we grow in knowledge, everybody knows, once you've been learning and studying sincerely with the intent of looking for the truth, it's rare to live on one opinion for 10 years. A good number of us, and to anybody, in the last 10, 15 years, some of our opinions we held, it's not the same opinion we're holding today. Why? Once you have that sincerity and commitment to learning, you continue growing better and better and better. And you look back and say, God forgive me. I even did it fatwa before. This was my position before. So this is some of my advice.
Wonderful. Thank you. Alan Nasser, what would you add to this?
Well, I think what I will add is the fact that there is this idea of black box thinking. Black box thinking is actually an idea that was popularized by Matthew Said in his book with the same title. It is tied to the idea or the function of a black box in the aeroplane industry, where it does the service or it plays the role of storing information and it helps in giving the companies an idea of what transpired even on planes that crashed. And therefore you find this mindset of trying to find out what happened with the view to improving towards the black box, particularly in planes that crash. And therefore the idea for Matthew Said is for people to develop this mindset of trying to learn without necessarily apportioning blame to any other person, but being open to dig and find information for its usefulness. And therefore I think it will be good for a student of knowledge to adopt this kind of approach, and thinking in dealing with issues of knowledge in the religion, in trying to search for reasons, for dalil, for evidence, with the view to understanding and appreciating and trying to understand where scholars are coming from, not with the view of condemning the views of others and thinking that this I am right and others are wrong and all this. So I think this is very important for a student of knowledge to always try to adopt this method of thinking in the way we relate with knowledge. And the second important issue is to ask ourselves, how do we feel when we are wrong? Usually we feel normal. It will be later when we discover that we were wrong for quite a long time, then we feel bad about it. So the need for us to be open to the possibility of being wrong, because sometimes you may not know that you are wrong, and it takes a very long time. But if you have that humility to appreciate the fact that you might be wrong and you are open to learning, then you make a better student of knowledge. And the need for us to learn to always give excuses, to appreciate the fact that there are lot of possibilities for differences of opinion. It could be the approach we talked time and again on how there is a legitimate reason for differences of opinion on the basis of things that are presumptive, evidences that are presumptive. And context also plays a significant role. So that mind that give excuses, that try to see where one is coming from, I think it's important for student of knowledge, particularly those who went through this course, to develop and internalize this attitude towards knowledge, towards views of scholars. That will help significantly in the way we develop ourselves, in the way we learn, and inshallah that will even have Allah bless the knowledge we acquired, because we respect the views of scholars, we appreciate their contribution.
I think a couple of points that you mentioned that I think worth reiterating. First, the metaphor of black box thinking, which you've mentioned, where in the aviation industry, when there's a plane crash, everybody is looking for the black box to get the data that will help them understand why was there an accident. And the reason the aviation industry is interested in that data is not to decide who to take to court. Their most important concern is how to design the next plane, how to improve, what exactly happened, without going with prejudice and judgment. And as you said, when you hear there's a difference of opinion, to try and listen without judgment, without trying to prove the other one is wrong or you are right, but just to understand what exactly is this opinion based on, what type of evidence is it based on. The other point that you mentioned, which I probably represent in a slightly different way, is where you said when it comes to the question of what does it feel like to be wrong? How do you feel when you are wrong? And you said, we feel normal, which is true. We usually would say we feel bad, but that's only when we know we are wrong. When you are arguing with somebody, even though you are wrong, but you have not yet discovered you are wrong, you believe you are right, you feel convinced, you feel you've got the superior argument, and that's why you continue arguing. It's only when you get to the point of realizing that you are wrong that you start feeling embarrassed, you start feeling ashamed. Unfortunately, therefore, being wrong doesn't have any bad feeling associated with it. And this is very unfortunate, which means the only way you can learn and know if you are wrong is if you are humble and curious to find out. And, you have to be ready to listen more than to defend yourself and argue your position, but try and understand where are other people coming from, because you lose nothing from being curious. If you listen and you are wrong, well, alhamdulillah, you get closer to the truth. If you listen and you find you are right, Alhamdulillah, greater certainty, but still that humility. A question I'd like to start with, hearing your comments. Imam Shafi, who is one of the greatest scholars of the Muslim Ummah, a descendant of the Prophet Quraysh, the Qurayshi line, one of the first scholars, actually the first scholar to write on the subject of usulul fiqh, to articulate the subject, made a statement where he said, I believe my opinion is right with the possibility that it is wrong, and I believe the contrary opinion is wrong with the possibility that it is right. What are your thoughts on this saying by such a scholar?
I think some of the interesting things that one can learn from this very important statement by Imam Shafi'i is, one, it is a demonstration of intellectual humility by one of the best jurists in our history. You can even argue of all times. If you look at the credentials of Imam Shafi'i and the contribution he gave to the body of knowledge, particularly this subject of usulul fiqh, while in fact some scholars even refer him as the father of usulul fiqh, of the subject of usulul fiqh, because of his work was the first articulation of the field of the knowledge of usulul fiqh. So for him to be that humble in trying to admit and appreciate the fact that despite the fact that he is convinced that he is right, but he is still open to that possibility of being wrong, that is a demonstration of intellectual humility. And I think it is an important lesson that every student of knowledge should learn from. Another important point from this particular statement is the fact that ijtihad by scholars is not 100%. There isn't 100% absolute certainty regarding ijtihad. It's an effort made by scholars. So it is just like, say, ijtihad is equals to difference of opinion among scholars, or diversity of opinion among scholars. And it is an approximation of what the scholar think represent the divine intent or the divine message on a particular issue. So I think these are some of the lessons that we can drive, that his opinion is not really qad'iyu thubut, qad'iyu dilala. It is still within the domain of dhanni, because it is an attempt to explain what he understood or what he thinks. And he has that humility and that open-mindedness to appreciate, to want to learn. In fact, you can find another extension of his statement where he prayed that Allah made the truth come from the mouth of his interlocutor, somebody he is discussing with, so that he will learn and accept, because he is very sure of his intellectual humility and respect for the views of others, that if it comes from the other person, he is very certain that he's going to take it. What he is not sure about is whether the other person will equally do the same, and that is why he keeps praying, because of, and I think this is also demonstrative of his quest for truth and search for truth, and he doesn't care where it comes from. So I think these are some of the interesting lessons that every student of knowledge should learn from this great scholar of Islam, this great jurist, Imam Shafi'i.
Alan Ibrahim,
Yeah.
what would you add to this?
Yeah, Imam Shafi'i has that reputation of humility and wise also. And I remember one of his statements also similar to that, just to show how humble he is. He said, "Jadaltu aliman faghalabtuhu, wa jadalani jahilan faghalabani." He said, I had a debate with scholars, and they defeated me. But I come here having a debate with people that I thought are ignorant, and I defeated scholars, but somebody I thought was ignorant defeated me. This is Imam Shafi'i. And when he was asked to explain further, he said it's true. He used evidence to convince scholars, so he hands them down. But the other guy used logic, no text, and they defeated him. So the thing is, you just, however certain you think you are, careful of this 100% certainty. It will not allow you to grow. It will not allow you to learn. And sincerely, when you say Wallahu A'lam, you really mean Wallahu A'lam right inside you. Let's have that level of sincerity. And that's why I said great people don't think much about themselves as being somebody. Because they could see gap, they know their weakness. And the truth is that every human being, when you remove that ego and arrogance and pride, you know your weakness much more than anybody. So we should have that humility and sincerity and careful of like, we know it all, we're very sure, this and that. It will not help us at all. And is a great killer of progress and development. So we should be open up, and like we said earlier, humility, curiosity, and be patient to listen to your opponent, to listen to somebody that has different of opinion with you. Probably, he might be right. You might be wrong for 10 years, maybe for the whole of your life. But that patience and tolerance to listen to and empathize, see where he's coming from, will help you a lot. And like I always say, you always have something to learn from each and everybody. A wise person always has something to learn. You know, personally, I traveled recently, and I had people that ordinarily you would have think, they look at me as a scholar, they learn from me, but they were doing azkar and supplication, and I noticed a mistake I was making in just pronunciation of one of the words I've been praying with for more than 10 years. But I come to hear it from them. When I heard it, and I thought, but I've been saying a different thing, after a long thought, I discovered that sincerely they are right. I have been wrong.
MashaAllah.
So this is one thing humility and this kind of mindset will do to us.
May Allah increase us in that humility and sincerity. There's another scholar, Malam Ibrahim Bello, if you can both actually comment on this, Sufyan al-Thawri. Imam Sufyan al-Thawri was regarded among the Tabi'een, or the nickname Amirul Mu'mineen fil Hadith. He's one of those great scholars of Hadith in his generation. And he had a saying where he said, if you see a man doing something over which scholars differ, and you regard it as prohibited, do not prohibit the other person. What are your thoughts? What comments? What reflections?
Yeah, this is a very good summary, and it's just telling us that we need to embrace difference of opinion. We need to tolerate one another. We need to agree to disagree agreeably, as we used to say it. Because what this goes to say is, we are bound to differ, but that should not threaten our peaceful coexistence and unity. So, a number of reasons result into this kind of difference of opinion. Silence in the text, or ambiguity in the nature of interpretation. Once you have this, it just means we are likely to have variety of opinions, and they need to live with it. And that once difference of opinion is coming from a scholarly basis, there is no need for debate. You don't have to start inviting people that differ with you from different mazhab or angle, and you are inviting them and you hold debate on those. Debates are usually on issues that are clearly prohibited. No ambiguity, no scholarly text or basis. It's not based on any legitimate ta'wil. But aside this, we will differ. Of course, like he said earlier, and like anybody know, we have those issues that we continue to reiterate that they are ma'lumu min ad-din bi-darura. No difference. And they form the basis, the key things in our religion. Nobody has issue with those ones. No mazhab will tell you have more than 5 compulsory prayers. No mazhab will tell you 5 pillars of Islam has issue. Key issues about Islam. But other issues that are subjected to interpretation, the mode of application, implementation, some little things, which some of them, like Brother Nasir explained earlier, were actually tied to context. So some of the view and interpretation of scholars is influenced by their context and their reality. So we should be humble enough to tolerate and embrace and be ready to live with this. Sometimes the Prophet ﷺ taught Sahabas this kind of thing. In more than one instances, they interpreted his instruction, or what they taught was the implication of a Quran verse. 2 different ways. They came to him One could outrightly see that one is a weaker understanding, but the Prophet never for once rebuke any of them and say, you are wrong. In one instance, he rather say, Lakal ajru marratani, asabta sunnah. That's a very good mentor. To tell you that you are bound to differ.
Meaning?
Yeah. They had two different angles to one thing and they came back to him. To one of them, he said, you have two rewards for making double effort, because the person actually did tayammum, dry ablution. When he later accessed water, he repeated ablution and repeated the salah. The other one felt, I'm okay. And they were coming to the Prophet to judge, like, who was right, who was wrong. He said, for you that repeated, you have double reward for your effort. And for you that if you choose not to repeat, what you did is in line with the sunnah. That's a good mentor. To tell you that you can actually live with this kind of difference of opinion. And a number
it's
of...
not either this or that.
And even in the case of Banu Qurayza, that he told them, La yusalliyan ahadukum al-asra illa fi Bani Qurayza, meaning none of you shall say asr till you get to Banu Qurayza. Literally, it means you must not pray till you get there. But technically, it could imply that hasten up. Make sure you get there before asr. But some who took him literally, some went by makasid, so to say. And when they later reported to him, he didn't condemn anybody. So these kind of things are important for us to also learn from.
Alan Nasir, what are your thoughts on Sufyan al-Thawri's quote?
Well, I think what seems very obvious for me and quite an interesting one is this respect for the diversity of opinion and giving priority for the maqasid of unity and brotherhood. Because just look at the statement. He said over an issue when that scholars differ. So that is signifying that it is a domain of difference of understanding. It's not as if the other person that probably one is tempted to go and condemn is standing on a baseless ground.
Yeah.
This is acknowledging the fact that it is a domain of difference of opinion. And when we say difference of opinion, we are talking about scholars differing. We are not talking about just somebody, holding an opinion with baseless reason. And look at it, it is Sufyan al-Thawri that is making this statement. So I think the need for us to learn to respect diversity of opinion among scholars and build that curiosity to understand where everybody is coming from, to want to learn the angles that actually they are coming from, and to take things easy. So long as there is difference of opinion among scholars, we should take things easy, and instead of trying to do tarji or insist on our position, to still adopt this method of black box thinking, of trying to see, okay, what can we learn from this? I think these are some of the things I find interesting and useful from this very interesting statement of Sufyan al-Thawri.
MashaAllah. And, just my little reflection on it, where he said, if you see somebody doing something on which scholars differ, which you regard as forbidden, don't stop him. It doesn't say you can't discuss it with him, you can't debate it with him, you can't argue, but at the end of the day, don't stop him. That we can have our differences, but don't reach the stage where you are considering his position illegitimate, to the extent of you want to stop a person from doing something just because you feel this is wrong, whereas other scholars greater than yourself hold a differing view.
Or something I just underlined from your statement is intellectual dialogue is allowed, is open, but not with the aim of condemning or debate or humiliation.
Exactly.
Everybody can be entitled to his opinion, but this discourse is a continuous thing.
Precisely.
Exactly.
And that's how we learn, that's how scholars learn, that's how we get to know we are wrong. That's how we sometimes get to know or think we are right.
Yeah.
But as you've also mentioned, the dangers of certainty. When you are really so certain, you stop listening. You close the opportunity to learn because you're not interested in learning, because you honestly believe, I'm certain. Somebody said, always have a space to put one finger up to say, one point I still don't know about this. So as much as I know on every issue, at least you should concede that there is one more thing you don't know that somebody knows, that your knowledge is never perfect, you're never 100% certain. As we come to the end of this course, what suggestions for further reading, for further study, would you recommend for people in this area of usul, qawaid, maqasid? I know there are a lot of books out there, scholars. What would you recommend, Malan Nasir?
Well, I think in the last couple of years, there are some Islamic organizations like the IIIT, International Institute for Islamic Thought, the Maqasid Institute, the Da'wah Institute of Nigeria, and many other centers like the International Institute for Advanced Islamic Studies in Malaysia, have done a lot in writing books. The Zaytuna Institute in California, they have done a lot in publishing books, developing courses, and developing materials that help in educating young Muslims and Muslims all over the world around this subject area of qawaid, maqasid, and usul al-fiqh. And also, if you go back to the classical scholars, I think some of the great scholars that have contributed immeasurably in this particular subject area, the likes of Ibn al-Qayyim, Imam al-Shatibi, for example, in his book Al-Muwafaqat, Imam al-Ghazali in his book Al-Mustasfa on Usul al-Fiqh, Ibn Ashur, and many other great scholars have contributed in this subject area, and the Ummah has benefited immensely from the work they have done in this subject of Usul, Qawaid, Maqasid.
Malam Ibrahim?
Yeah, more contemporary, we have a number of scholars who have done a lot on this area. You have Taha Jabir Alwani, who just died recently. We have Jasir Auda, Muhammad Hashim Kamali, Abdullah bin Bayya, Wahab Zuhaili, Abdullah bin Bayya, Wahab Zuhaili, Shah Waliullah Ad-Dahlawi, and a number of them, including Shaman Jackson. Most of these scholars in the recent years have been doing a lot, and they've published a lot of the books on this area, including Sheikh Umar Farooq Abdullah, yes, and a number of them.
Oh, yes. And, alhamdulillah, more material coming out on this subject by many scholars. And I think a lot of courses now, a lot of websites, institutes having a lot of free literature on this subject area, which we would really want to recommend people to pursue, to read, to study, to listen to more videos. Alhamdulillah for the easy access. As we come to the end, what are those takeaways that you would hope that people who have completed this course would go with? What expectations do you have that by now they should be able to? What would you think are the major takeaways you would say you hope people go away with?
Yeah, like we introduced and we said at the beginning of the course, we hope by now the Dawah activists, students of Islamic knowledge, and those involved in Dawah would have learned and seen the classical methodology of juristic reasoning in Islam. That is not as simple as seeing a hadith and concluding that so because of that it is haram. And because the Quran says it is wajib. It's true, but a number of things are involved, scholarly really, number one. Number two, it has introduced, we expect now people should have been introduced to the nuance and the technicalities and terminologies of scholars in this area, which will aid in our understanding and interpretation of qawaid and things related to fiqh and maqasid and all these areas. A number of differences. Things from far you used to think they just mean one thing before. You can now see how sunnah is used to mean this, how hadith is different from sunnah, what is the role of maqasid, what role has qawaid gotten, and how useful is usulul fiqh in understanding how useful is the context and the Prophet's intent. Also, one should have been equipped with some enhanced common sense tools, like I call them, of identifying which fatwa has been formulated that does not meet the standard, meaning which is a fake fatwa and which is fatwa that is more in line with maqasidu Shariah. So these are some of the major takeaways a student should have taken from this course.
Well, some of my expectations and hope for a participant of this very important course is that by now he or she is able to appreciate and understand how scholars reconcile their fatwas with the maqasid of Sharia, with the objective of Sharia. Another very important takeaway that I hope participants have learned is the importance of triangulation, the importance of appreciating how scholars use these very important subject areas, these big three, that is usul al-fiqh, qawaid al-fiqhiyya, maqasid al-sharia, with all their diverse and different perspectives in trying to analyze and, of course, for greater certainty, look at the product of ijtihad and come out with fatwas and positions that are more in line with the objective, with the maqasid, and of course following established and acceptable usul methodology. This idea of triangulating to test, to filter and ensure that whatever fatwa is produced has checked the three boxes, the box of qawaid, usul and maqasid. So that understanding and that consciousness of whatever fatwa comes your way, whether it fits into these very important boxes. I think I would love to see that participants that have gone through this course are conscious and mindful of this the moment they hear of a fatwa. Another very important thing I hope and expect participants of this course will learn and develop is the knowledge that guides you in understanding what to do when scholars differ. We just discussed about the opinions of scholars and their recommendation on what to do. 10 ways, 10 options that were recommended by scholars on what to do when they differ. So I hope that participants will always remember this and the arguments around each and every recommendation. Another important takeaway I hope the participant will always bear in mind is this developing this greater respect for the diversity of opinion among scholars. The need for them to develop more curiosity for knowledge, more humility, and to appreciate the fact that this is just a stimulant to the learning of this very important field. It does not in any way signifies and makes the participant, not even myself, that somehow contributed in the development of this course. I don't see myself as a scholar, let alone a participant who went through this course. So they develop that humility and understanding that this is just an introduction that hope to encourage you to learn more, to explore more. Already some references were mentioned that we can look at and study and develop our understanding in this subject area. Brother Noor, you always used to give an example of the idea of this field or this course, Introduction to Sharia Intelligence, that if the whole usul is a city, then what we did is just going through the main road, walking through the main road. So in a city, if you just walk through the main road, imagine what you've missed in the entire city. So I think this is just an introduction. So, and I hope and expect the participant to take it as such, that this is just introducing us, this is just a stimulation for us to explore more and learn more, and of course share more, because knowledge that you share is the one that will keep expanding and growing. Another important thing is, my hope is, another hope that I have is the fact that hoping that this course that we've gone through will make us better Muslims, will make us more curious, and will make us ask better about Islam and engage our scholars and assess some of the opinions and evidences that come our way. So inshallah, these are some of the expectations and I have, and I pray may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the knowledge that we've acquired.
MashaAllah. You've said nearly everything I was going to say. And thank you for attributing the metaphor of the usul being like a city, and what we have done is just really a run through the main road. It's one I borrowed from Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayya.
Yeah, so I borrowed you. It has already become a chain.
We have a silsila.
It's not.
And who knows where he got it from? That's knowledge. I think for me, it's to remember what unites us, the ma'alum min ad-din bid-darura, and not allow anything else to break that bond of brotherhood, of unity. Not to let anything that comes from any weaker source of evidence make us reject what we are more certain about, and to be in favor of anything that is less than that. I think and I hope that at the end of this course, participants appreciate the wisdom of Islam, the beauty of Islam, the compassion of Allah in His revelation and His having sent His Prophet. And as you said, that we pray Allah to, continue to guide us all. We are all students of knowledge. None of us is a scholar. None of us, once you meet scholars, once you meet, and we've mentioned a lot of these scholars already, then it becomes obvious we're really just students of knowledge. And so anybody who thinks they have learned something from this course, if you think we are scholars and we think we are students, then definitely don't think you're a scholar. We're all learning, and inshallah, until we pass away, may Allah continue to keep us hungry for knowledge, curious, humble, sincere, and may Allah forgive us for our mistakes and guide us and keep us on a straight path. I'd like to thank both of you and Sister Salatu in absentia for your time and effort. Jazakumullahu khairan. Until another time when we come together probably on another topic. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.